Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be doing a brief stock analysis for Intel, and I just wanted to go ahead and let you know this is not going to be any kind of deep dive into their financials, but more so me just giving my opinion for the company and the outlook for the industry. And I'm actually doing one of these types of videos for every company in the Dow 30, so be sure to come and check it out if you do enjoy the video. And I like to start off by looking at the 5-year chart so you can get kind of a longer term growth perspective. And as you can see, the stock price is at about $33 5 years ago, and then was actually pretty stagnant for a couple of years. And then at its recent high, it had almost doubled from what it was at 5 years ago, but it's currently sitting at about $54. And that may look like pretty decent growth, but if you look at some of its peers, like NVIDIA and AMD, with 1,000% growth in the past 5 years, then it's not great. And then you could say that Intel is much more well established, so it's not possible that they can have that kind of growth, which is absolutely true. But if you go ahead and look at even bigger companies like Apple and Microsoft, they're innovating at a much faster rate and doing a lot better than Intel is doing, and they do have a massive R&D budget, so they've got to be doing something wrong here. And then if you take a look at the stock year to date, it was at its previous high at about $69 before March, when the overall market was completely down. And it's pretty much come back up, not to its previous high, but about what it was at the end of last year. And then if we take a look at their revenue and earnings, revenue's really steady for the last 4 quarters, which is expected because they don't do a lot direct to consumer. And then a little bit of slump in earnings the last couple quarters, which is as to be expected just because, overall spending has been down. And next up, I wanted to talk about a couple of bullish and bearish points here by analysts at Morningstar, and there are actually a couple of pretty good ones for the positive points. The first one is that Intel is one of the largest semiconductor companies, which when I first think of Intel, I more think of the chips they make, but they actually do way more as a percentage of their sales in semiconductors, and they have massive R&D budgets, which is why they're still at the forefront of semiconductors as well as chips, and they need to continue to do so and continue to innovate faster than their peers so that NVIDIA and AMD will stagnate as well as a lot of the leading semiconductor companies. And then another point is that Intel has made some great acquisitions, which you always like to see with a large company such as this, with companies like Altera, Mobileye, Nirvana, as well as Movidius. I actually haven't heard of that one. But I think these R&D budgets, as well as, investing and buying out companies such as Altera, which is a really big value added for semiconductors, as well as Mobileye, which is really big in AI. If they continue to kind of take this Facebook approach of acquisitions, then I think they will be doing really well for the long term. And next up, I wanted to touch on a couple of negative points by analysts at Morningstar. The first one is that Intel is facing a PC market in decline and must maintain its technology lead to prevent market loss to AMD, and they're continually losing market share to AMD, and there's kind of one side of the argument that's saying AMD is going to be gone away pretty much in a few years, and they're going to stagnate, and Intel is going to remain the largest. And then there's another argument that AMD is going to continue to grow, and I'm an AMD investor. I think I only have like 4 shares, but still, so I'm kind of on the AMD side of that. And then the second point is that the inability for Intel to break into the smartphone market at a reasonable level is a cause for concern, and I don't really agree with that. I mean, if they're more involved with PCs, I think PCs are not going away anytime soon, so I don't see it as a huge minus that they're not doing too well in smartphones, just because it's not a huge space they're known to be in. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on the research report overview for Morningstar. They were given 4 out of 5 stars, and I think that's mostly because their fair value, which they were given a $70 fair value, and then they were given a wide economic moat, which is probably true just because their technology leads they have over their peers, but that is slowly being chipped away at, and it will kind of remain to be seen what happens in a few years if they are still the technology leader or if they continue to kind of stagnate with their market cap. Anyways, I know I talked more about the chips rather than their semiconductors, even though their semiconductors are a larger part of their business, but I hope you were still able to get something out of that. I make tons of other brief stock analysis videos similar to this one, so come and check it out if you are interested. Subscribe for more content, and thanks so much for watching to the end.